Craig, good morning. When officers arrived here at the Pelosi home exactly a week ago today, they initially didn't have any idea exactly what was going on. They knew they had a high priority call on their hand. What was unclear, what was happening inside the property just behind me.
This morning, Paul Pelosi is home, back at the house that became a crime scene a week ago today. NBC News learning new details about the moments police arrived. Sources familiar with what unfolded in the Pelosi residence.
Good morning. I apologize that I didn't do an update on this a little bit sooner, but if I'm being honest, I did want to wait for more information to come out. The same as I do with my boxing content. If something major happens, I want to wait until another major development. But let me let this play through. This is a news report that NBC News Today has been trying to scrub from the internet, and now NBC has suspended the journalist, correspondent for the report, for actually doing reporting. Miguel Almaguer. I know I'm probably butchering that, but wait, let's go back. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. I'm TstreeT Controversy. We're going to start over.
Craig, good morning. When officers arrived here at the Pelosi home exactly a week ago today, they initially didn't have any idea exactly what was going on. They knew they had a high priority call on their hand. What was unclear, what was happening inside the property just behind me.
This morning, Paul Pelosi is home, back at the house that became a crime scene a week ago today. NBC News learning new details about the moments police arrived. Sources familiar with what unfolded in the Pelosi residence now revealing when officers responded to the high-priority call, they were seemingly unaware they'd been called to the home of the Speaker of the House. After a knock and announce, the front door was opened by Mr. Pelosi. The 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or try to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from police. It's unclear if the 82-year-old was already injured or what his mental state was, say sources. According to court documents, when the officer asked what was going on, defendant smiled and said everything's good. But instantaneously, a struggle ensued as police clearly saw David DePape strike Paul Pelosi in the head with a hammer. After tackling the suspect, officers rushed to Mr. Pelosi, who was lying in a pool of blood.
What we do know is he brutally attacked Mr. Pelosi and attempted to kill him.
After spending several days in the ICU, Pelosi, who is recovering from a fractured skull and serious injuries to his arm and hand, is now home, where Capitol Police remain on alert. Investigators have previously said Pelosi did not know DePape when the 42-year-old broke into his home. Why Pelosi didn't try to flee or tell responding officers he was in distress is unclear.
Fear takes over. Fear freezes people.
This morning, the 82-year-old lucky to be alive after an intruder nearly killed him in his own home.
Law enforcement officials tell us the bottom line here is this was a terrifying situation. We still don't know exactly what unfolded between Mr. Pelosi and the suspect for the 30 minutes they were alone inside that house before police arrived. Officials who were investigating this matter would not go into further details about these new details. Craig, back to you.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, though.
All right. Wow. Okay. So this report, in fact, let's go to this article here. NBC suspends correspondent after network was forced to retract exclusive report on how Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, 82, calmly opened the door to cops and then walks towards hammer intruder who bludgeoned him. Now, you would think, right? He is the correspondent, but this has graphics. In fact, I have another video for you that will explain it better than me. And I've been watching a lot of Australian news these days. Take a time out, like the video, subscribe. We're going to be here talking about this for another 15 minutes to 20 minutes or so, because I want to make sure we get everything. Now, when I first had heard they suspended him, news broke on Monday. What time was that? Monday, the 14th. It's the 16th right now as I'm recording this. But listen to this right here from this Australian news reporter, Paul Murray. And that's what I thought myself when I was like, wait a minute, but this had to go through so many different chains to actually get on air, like producers, the people who are doing the graphics, you know, the cameramen, you know, this was a segment that was planned.
Story got stranger, and now it is getting stranger again. The story I'm talking about is a lunatic who went after the Speaker of the House, at least for the next few days, Nancy Pelosi. Paul Pelosi was attacked in his home. He's an 82-year-old man, and the person responsible is certifiably nuts. Oh, and an illegal immigrant, but don't worry about talking about that. Now, as you know, there's lots of details around this story that are just strange, and that's not me trying to fan any sort of conspiracy theories. It's just a strange story.
And that's what I don't like is how, you know, people who are asking questions are like, yo, this story sounds, you know, it doesn't make any sense. And just to go ahead and get it out of the way, from the outside looking in, and I'm not the only one, it looks like Paul Pelosi and this guy was doing something. That's their business. But something went horribly wrong. Now, I do personally feel, in my opinion, that this guy, David DePape, was a guest of Paul Pelosi. And that maybe, you know, they were in there getting high together or maybe having, you know, some intimate relations. That's his business. But what I don't like is, you know, don't like try to use politics and the government and the news agencies to try to cover up because whatever you doing, like that's, come on, man, that's how it looks. You know, especially like, I don't trust this woman. You know, you think she ain't concerned about her reputation, that her husband was sleeping around with possibly a dude, you know, maybe, or getting high, you know, like high shit with San Fran, you know, drug lunatics. You think, you know, these politicians, you think she ain't more worried about her personal image? Like the shit don't make no sense, but let's listen to the rest of this. And we're going to go to, I got all my notes here from when I first did my first video. And thank you for all those who supported me. It got like 1 million views or so. It's actually my second 1 million view video. I did one several years ago on boxing on another channel. But, you know, like, thank you. Like, I can't put into words like how much it has helped me and my family, especially since I'm going through a custody situation where I got 2 big trials coming up. But I got my original facts here. And for those who've been following this story, they've been trying to bury it, but the story keeps changing. It's too bizarre, and the story is changing in major ways. But let's listen to the rest of this. So once again, thanks for watching. Please take your time out, like the video, subscribe. We got more content like this coming.
And the story was given particular strangeness with this report on NBC News.
After a knock and announce, the front door was opened by Mr. Pelosi. The 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or try to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from police.
But a couple of hours after that story went to air, NBC pulled the story, and now they have suspended the reporter responsible for the story. Now, if this bloke completely made everything up, well, then okay, that's why you suspend someone. But don't forget, this guy wasn't just randomly saying it. He was saying it in a pre-taped piece that had graphics that meant someone other than himself knew what this story was. Presumably it was going up and down the chain. Somebody moved it from the reporter's mouth to the television sets and websites of the world. But only he is suspended? I repeat, a strange story got stranger because of this reporting, but now this bloke is suspended and NBC says it's because it fanned right-wing conspiracies. I repeat, the victim is absolute. It is Paul Pelosi. The perpetrator is absolute. It is a nutter who deserves to spend an awfully long time in jail. But how is it that a free-to-air news network in the United States puts this information to air, not in a live cross, but in a pre-taped piece? It goes through all of the hands, but only one person is suspended? I told you it was strange.
So let me do it this way. Here's what I have. I'm going to read out my notes from my very first video on this topic. Now, here's the facts of the case. David DePape DePape, 42 years old. At 2:27 a.m. on October the 28th, 2022, the police, San Francisco PD, responded to what was a well-being check. Now, I'm going to play that audio from that call here, and we're going to go from there.
40 Broadway, across of Scott and Normandy. 14 hour copy. RP stated that there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated that he doesn't know who the male is, but he advised that his name is David and that he is a friend. RP sounded somewhat confused. 12 over back and copy.
Units code 3 to 2640 Broadway for 14 hour.
Ever 12 over copy. 15 hour also code 3.
Everyone 12 advice insufficient units on scene 2640 Broadway. Special call medic 66, location 2640 Broadway.
Now, listen to this part. The early story was they were both fighting over a hammer. Rumors were, and this hasn't been confirmed, that both were in their underwear. But there's been heavy rumors that actually it's been confirmed that Paul was in his underwear because he's supposed to be asleep. David DePape is supposedly an LGBTQ plus nudist. How would he have gotten in without any alarms going off for, how did they end up calling 911? So here's what the story says. Pelosi was supposed to be sleeping. DePape had zip ties and duct tape in a bag. He was supposedly screaming, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" It's being said. The stories, they don't make sense. They've been all over the place. Who heard the "Where's Nancy"? Supposedly it was a cop that was on scene, but yet both of these guys were at the door. It's being said that both of them were in the house for about 30 minutes, or the pop was in there for at least 30 minutes. My gut is telling me maybe it was longer. And what happened to this possible third person that was supposed to be there? Security cameras. Capitol Police have security cameras outside the Pelosi residence all around. Top tier, high quality shit, but supposedly at this time, no one was watching. Where's the recordings? Are they recorded? Whose hammer was it? Was it Paul Pelosi's hammer? Or was this in this so-called bag of David DePape where they had zip ties, a fucking manifesto? Remember they were saying he had a manifesto or something? We read the DOJ, Department of Justice report here on a previous video where none of it makes sense. They try to make it seem like he's this MAGA extremist and that he, got all high, went to the Pelosi residence, climbed up God knows what, bashed out the back window, which those pictures look, let me see if I can pull them up for you. Those pictures look, suspect. And he confronted Paul Pelosi while he was sleeping, woke him up. Somehow Paul Pelosi is able to go to the bathroom, get on the phone. It just, and I'm sitting here, he was charged with elder abuse. And if you get charged with elder abuse, from my understanding, is when it's somebody that's considered a friend or a close one. So let's go look at this clip here. His first arraignment was on, the incident took place on October the 28th. His arraignment was on November the 1st. There was media in the courtroom, but no cameras were allowed. You can see the sketches on screen there. He's facing now, from what went from 13 years to now 30 to life. Here, let's play this clip here. Once again, thanks for watching. Please drop a like. T-Street Controversy with Fight View. I was going to say my boxing, Fight View 360, but and T-Street Controversy. But yeah, let's listen to this.
The suspect with attacking the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Paul Pelosi, pleading not guilty today to both federal charges of assault and attempted kidnapping in a courtroom in San Francisco. If he's convicted, he's looking at some pretty hefty sentences behind bars. The assault charge carries a maximum of 30 years in prison, kidnapping 20 years in prison. This is his first federal court appearance. He also pleaded not guilty to separate state.
So here's the charges. Attempted murder. Okay, that's the hammer, attacked Pelosi. We have many questions on why did the attack happen. Now, did he owe you money? Or was dude just so high out of his mind? What the hell happened? Residential burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, false imprisonment of an elder, threats to a public official and their family. No mugshot, no body cam.
Charges, including attempted murder, burglary, and elder abuse. Dana Griffin is joining us now from out in California. Dana, bring us up to speed on what we know and where this goes next.
Good afternoon, Hallie. So this was a very brief court appearance during which 42-year-old David DePape pleaded not guilty to those federal charges, which are assault on an immediate family member of a U.S. official and attempted kidnapping. So he walked in quietly.
But notice how they left the other stuff out, like the elder abuse and all of that.
With his orange prison outfit, these are the only images since we do not have cameras in court. This is from Sketch.
Let me rewind this back. By the way, I followed her on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy. The link is down below in the comments in the description box. So you see how they got him looking like this hippie?
Family member of a U.S. official and attempted kidnapping. So he walked in quietly with his orange prison outfit. These are the only images since we do not have cameras in court. This is from sketch artist Vicky Behringer. Now, he was returned to state custody where he faces a litany of other charges, including attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and elder abuse.
So I want your thoughts on this, and we have a little bit more we got to go through here. So there's supposed to be a rookie FBI agent on the case. He has no bail. Pelosi called the police from the elevator and the bathroom, or the bathroom. Were there two hammers? Supposedly, there was a bag of duct tape, zip ties, and rope, but they didn't say if this was the PAP's bag, duct tape, zip ties, or rope. And where's the body cam footage? Wouldn't that clear up all of this? The body cam footage. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to play, it's going to be a rather long audio, but I want you guys to listen to this. And I'm not going to be able to play the video, but I will be able to play the audio. And I want you to listen to this.
But a little bit earlier in the show, I mentioned Paul.
Because the story is strange. Now, let me know down below in the description box. The comments, how you feel. Because it just keeps getting stranger and stranger. Now, I'm going to be honest. My personal, honest opinion is that maybe they were both in there getting high, or maybe those rumors are true. Paul Pelosi, and it's okay. But don't, just do this to the American people in the system. People have problems. If your marriage is on the rocks with your wife, people have problems in their marriages, but don't try to, make it seem like everyone's crazy for asking questions. Here, I'm going to let this play, but we can only play the audio. And I'm going to put the links to this down below in the description box as well for you to, see my sources.
Paul Pelosi. Tonight, there's more confusion about what happened inside Nancy Pelosi's house on October 28th. Now, if you remember, that's when a nudist named David DePape attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Now, according to a federal indictment by the Federal Department of Justice, police officers opened the door to Nancy Pelosi's home. Now, this is fascinating because it's in direct contradiction to the filings by San Francisco District Attorney and local law enforcement who say that no, in fact, Paul Pelosi opened the door. An NBC News affiliate in the Bay Area just reported that according to law enforcement sources who saw body cam footage, the DA is right. The DOJ is wrong. Paul Pelosi opened the door. Now, why is this important? Because asking for details or facts when it comes to this story have again been dismissed as a conspiracy, as an entire narrative that David DePape was an insurrectionist and a MAGA Republican was built. No questions that could get in the way of that narrative. For example, this isn't the first time that NBC News contradicted the DOJ's narrative. Earlier this month, NBC ran this report, which stated that Paul Pelosi didn't think he was in danger when David DePape was in his home.
Sources familiar with what unfolded in the Pelosi residence now revealing when officers responded to the high-priority call, they were seemingly unaware they'd been called to the home of the Speaker of the House. After a knock and announce, the front door was opened by Mr. Pelosi. The 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or try to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from police. Why Pelosi didn't try to flee or tell responding officers he was in distress is unclear.
We still don't know exactly what unfolded between Mr. Pelosi and the suspect for the 30 minutes they were alone inside that house before police arrived.
Now, that report by NBC News that seems to at least be in part supported by the new investigative report from an NBC affiliate in the Bay Area was totally scrubbed from its website. They also suspended that reporter, Miguel Almaguer. He has not been heard from, no tweets, no appearances on television, for almost 2 weeks. NBC claims that Almaguer violated their standards. What standards were those? See, no NBC reporters were ever suspended for the lies that they told in helping the Democratic Party. Watch.
They're going to go ahead and start talking about the Hunter Biden laptop. I haven't done a video on that, even though I've been wanting to for months. But I think it's safe to say that we're not getting the full story. And, you know, let's hope that Mr. DePape gets his day in court, because I want to know what the hell has been going on. It's a very, very fishy and shady story. And here's how I feel, you know, how we're being treated when we talk about the story. This is another excerpt from this Fox News interview here, but listen to this. Let's go start right here. This is how we get treated when we start questioning, like, wait a minute, this shit don't sound right.
For facts which are now find what is the story.
Hold on, my bad.
Very few facts to support it underneath. And now we understand that if you ask for facts which are now coming forward to try to clarify what is the story, you're guilty of conspiracy. No need to make an affirmative case, right? Simply questioning the facts makes you guilty of a conspiracy.
Yeah, what you've seen here, Will, is that they will actually weaponize the most basic principles of fact-finding and what's supposedly journalism against people. You ask the question and you're the bad guy. I mean, we just saw in the horrific tragedy of Uvalde, for example, police initially were lying. The reports initially were entirely false. And there was a reason for that, right? There were people who were trying to cover up for their entirely inadequate and honestly awful response. So in this instance, you just want to say, well, why can't we know the truth? If it's so straightforward, if it's such an obvious story, why are there two law enforcement agencies that have different facts? Right. That's just a reality. They can say that it's QAnon or conspiracy or lunacy, but how about just the truth? But, Will, we all know they didn't want that before the election, and they're not going to want it on this issue for a long time.
So, come on. Now, apparently, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, but he had to take the fall for this. Mr. Miguel, listen, I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name. We're going to call him Miguel. Great sources, born and raised in San Francisco, solid guy. Why did Noah Oppenheimer pull the report and imply that Miguel screwed up? But see, this would have to go through so many chains. And now this guy, don't be surprised if you don't see him on the network ever again. But here's those conflicting reports they were talking about from that San Francisco affiliate, and I found the video. Let's see. Here it is right here. It is from the NBC Bay Area News, and we're going to listen to it. So once again, thanks for watching. Take your time out. Like the video, subscribe.
All right, new information tonight on a story that we've been tracking, the attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Our investigative team looked into why state and federal prosecutors each describe one specific detail of the police response differently. Senior investigative reporter Begad Shaban has been checking with his sources to try and clear it up. He joins us now, and you've got some answers, Begad.
Well, Jess, this all has to do with the moments, seconds really, just before Paul Pelosi was struck in the head with a hammer inside his San Francisco home. Now, there continues to be contradicting accounts of a relatively simple question. Who opened the door that night when San Francisco police arrived to the Pelosi house? Now, the Department of Justice says the 2 officers opened the door. That's according to a federal indictment filed earlier this week. But the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, in another court document that was filed earlier this month, said Mr. Pelosi opened the door with his left hand. So the question is, what really happened? According to a source familiar with the investigation who personally watched the police body camera footage from that.
So you hear that? That body cam footage is out there. And from what I've been researching, you're hearing terms like it's explosive or damning. What was on that body cam footage? Was it a third person? Were they both meaning DePape and Pelosi in their drawers, in their underwear? What the fuck? This is some weird shit. Excuse my language. This is some weird shit.
According to a source familiar with the investigation who personally watched the police body camera footage from that night, officers knocked on the door of the Pelosi home, then backed away. And the video clearly shows Paul Pelosi open the door with his left hand, just like what was noted in the documents filed by the DA's office. Now, also as written in the DA docs, the source tells us the body cam video shows officers having a brief conversation with Pelosi and David DePape. That's the man accused of breaking into the Pelosi home, before DePape starts beating Pelosi with a hammer. We reached out to the Department of Justice for an explanation on its differing account of this seemingly innocuous issue of who opened the door, but so far we have not heard back. However, I did get to ask San Francisco DA Brooke Jenkins directly about another issue many people are wondering about earlier this week, based on her office's account of Paul Pelosi opening the door.
Now, I want you to listen to her. This poor woman is in too deep. She's just doing what they tell her to do. That's the feeling I'm getting from this. But something happened. What happened when Pelosi opens the door and the cops have to step back like, whoa, like what was going on? And then they're talking. They're talking for a little minute. You can only assume that the pap's right there. They're not going in and saying, oh, my God, he's got a hammer. He's crazy. Pelosi already referred to him as a friend. He was already in the house. I don't believe that this man broke in at all. What the hell happened? But listen to her, this poor woman. And I think she just got reelected too, didn't she?
The case has certainly garnered a fair.
And she got hit with this shit. She probably like, what the fuck?
Share of conspiracy theories about what actually happened that night. As part of your investigation, are you able to shed any light as to why Paul Pelosi didn't run out of the house towards police officers when he was able to actually open the door for them when they arrived?
What I'm not able to do is to speculate or try to place my opinions on why someone acted the way they did in any case. All we have is what happened. Everybody reacts to situations differently, and he will one day need to explain, right, to potentially a jury why he did what he did and what thought process was going on in his mind. But certainly we know that all victims of crime respond very differently under the stress of the situation, and I don't think it's fair for us to place what we believe, Monday morning quarterbacking.
All right, Begad, I got to ask you this because, I mean, in the end, does it really even matter whether he opened the door or the guy opened the door or the police opened the door? I mean, how does that change the scenario if you move away just conspiracy theories?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is right now, Jess, we have no reason to believe that it matters at all. And that's why our source, who has seen the police body camera video, can't understand why federal investigators wrote that officers opened the door, because they say the video shows officers didn't. But when two police agencies give slightly different accounts of what happened in this kind of high-profile case like this one, it just feeds into conspiracy.
Kind of high-profile case. It is a high-profile case. You have the Department of Justice of Justice and the police department with two different stories. If anything, this guy may be a sicko, this DePape guy, but, you know, something's wrong there. Like, you know, give that man bail. They can't even get the story right. They're hiding something, clearly. Let's see where this goes. The next big updates, expect me to do some more videos on this type of content. I'm going to be following very, very closely. Thanks for watching. Please take your time out, like the video, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy.